At number 3, I have the Lions taking place of what would have been the Ravens. So let's talk about the Lions for just a moment here. The Detroit Lions have made several impactful moves during the 2024 offseason, as we know, and the draft was huge to improve this team. Here's my comprehensive look at what the Detroit Lions did this offseason and why they should be positioned here as the third best team in the NFL. Number 1, they brought in defensive end Marcus Davenport. Now, I know that there's mixed reviews here on Marcus Davenport. He's kind of been injured, banged up throughout the last couple of seasons. But if the Lions can get the Marcus Davenport of 2021 back, they have a very secure defensive end here that can help this team win. He definitely adds depth and experience to the pass rush alongside of or opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Although Davenport has had injury issues, his potential impact when healthy is significant. He's a big guy. He knows the game. When he plays hard. It's just, he's got to be in the game. And I think that's the biggest detractor for a lot of Lions fans is the injury effect. And Brad Holmes bringing in these guys that seem to have injuries consistently. And that makes us worry because as Lions fans for decades, we've always failed with injured players, always, without a doubt. But then we back that up by bringing in Kevin Zeitler. So the Lions lost Jonah Jackson, which I was not afraid of this loss. I predicted it. I expected it. I did not think that the Lions were going to overpay Jonah Jackson for his services. And then they brought in a guy that's better. They filled in the gap left by Jonah by bringing in Kevin Zeitler. Despite his age, Zeitler is expected to bring stability and experience to the offensive line. He was rated as one of the top guards in the NFL last year for the Ravens. Perfect match here for the Lions to bring in somebody that can give the Lions that extra that we do need at the right guard position. They followed that up by also re-signing Graham Glasgow. Now, this one was big for me, very big for me. I wanted Graham back. Not only did he play better than Jonah Jackson, grade-wise on PFF, but retaining Graham Glasgow also helps to give this Lions offense continuity along the offensive line. It also strengthens the offensive line by giving the Lions someone that can play multiple positions. Last year, he played right guard, left guard, center, did it all swimmingly. When he filled in at center, he probably played better than average. It's not Frank Ragnow at center, but he can do it. And that makes me feel better that knowing that Frank has issues and injuries that kind of creep up throughout the season, we have a guy that can slide in now. So big time moves by the Lions, re-signing Graham Glasgow, bringing in Kevin Zeitler. I will say that this offensive line is better than it was in 2023, and that's pretty scary. To match up with Marcus Davenport, the Lions brought in the number 1 free agent, DJ Reader. In my opinion, this was the biggest move for the Lions here in the offseason free agency period. Obviously, DJ Reader aims to maintain and enhance the Lions' already very strong run defense, putting him next to Aleem McNeil. We know that Reader is known for his ability to stop the run, consistently taking on double teams. He'll be crucial for the Lions' defensive front. He just has to get on the field. I know that there's some worry right now that he may not even be ready for week 1. And if that's the case, it is what it is. I think that when he is in, we are going to see a brand new defense. He is going to add so much power to that defensive line. That getting an interior pass rush, I think, is finally going to wake up Lions fans to just how good Aiden Hutchinson can be by now finally having an interior pass rush that can take the pressure away from Aiden, and Aiden's going to be able to work. So those are the 4 biggest moves in free agency outside of Meek Robertson and Carlton Davis. Now, I wasn't extremely high on Carlton Davis in the beginning because of the injuries, his lack of time on the field, missing more than 23% of the available games since he's been in the NFL. But when you look at it and you look at what he's been able to do when he's on the field, Carlton Davis has been a fairly locked down corner on the left side of the defense. Him to step in with Meek Robertson, who's an absolute bulldog. He's not afraid to match up against anybody. He can play interior in the slot. He can also play outside. And Carlton Davis, he can play either left or right side, but he's more comfortable on the left side of the defense. Those were big moves with the Lions obviously shedding the dead weight, which was Jerry Jacobs and Will Harris and others that just didn't stack up. The loss of Cam Sutton to his legal issues. But none of those players really had a great season last year. So the Lions are starting brand new on this defense. They've added some significant free agents. And then draft strategy was big. Before I get into the draft strategy, what do you want to say about the free agent acquisitions?
No, that was one thing. It's a good point. I had forgotten about Carlton Davis's injury history. And that makes me think that everybody is going to play. So Ennis Rakestraw, I believe, is going to be getting an opportunity here. Now, hopefully, Carlton Davis stays on the field, but if he's not able to, obviously we have Terrion Arnold, who would probably slide over, and then some mixture of Amik Robertson and Ennis Rakestraw filling in for them. So that was just one thing that I wanted to bring up that you brought to my attention with the Carlton Davis injury situation.
Well, I think that you just kind of hit the nail on the head there. I mean, Ennis Rakestraw is going to be able to get more playing time than I think what we expected. He's going to battle it out in camp. Brad Holmes has considered this camp to be a bloodbath in the back end of this defense, and it's going to be. We have high level competition for the first time in Dan Campbell's regime and Brad Holmes' regime, that we now have players that are competing in the backside of the defense. Yeah, you could say they were competing before. This is different. Like, we've got actual competitors where we have 4 or 5 guys that could all turn out to be a number 1 corner. Like, when's the last time that we've really had this much competition on the back end of the defense? I can't remember a year. Even in 2014, I think that, the players are pretty much set. I don't think that we really had an overabundance of competition in that back end of the defense. So this year, I mean, between Ennis Rakestraw, Terrion Arnold, Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, I mean, all 4 of those guys legit could be a number 1 corner in the NFL on one of the 32 NFL teams if they come in and play at their highest potential. That, I think, is the biggest thing that we're waiting to see. Like, who's going to really be able to come in and play at their highest potential? Is Ennis Rakestraw going to be able to bend that learning curve, and make it a little bit of a shorter trajectory to be able to get on the field? But to your point about backing up Carlton Davis, if Carlton Davis does go down, I think that I feel more comfortable this year with the amount of depth that we now have than I have in years past. Like, I'm totally comfortable now knowing that we've got some guys that can come in. Carlton goes down, Terrion fills in. If Amik Robertson goes down, Ennis Rakestraw fills in. Totally solid. I think that we're good. I don't really want to have 2 rookies on the field at the same time, but we still have Brian Branch from last season, stellar performer, someone that can step in and play any position, and I think our safeties are solid. And then you've got Sion Vaki. He's a playmaker. You call him whatever you want to call him, but he's a playmaker, and you cannot keep him off the field. So we'll see what happens, as the season progresses. But man, this is shaping up to be probably one of the most electric off seasons and training camps that we're going to be a part of here in the last 3-4 years.
Shout out Jahmyr Gibbs.
So moving on with the draft. So as we know, the Lions selected Terrion Arnold at 24. Quite honestly, there was a lot of conversation between him and Quinion Mitchell. Who's the best? Who's number 1? I had Terrion Arnold as my number 1 corner in this draft. I did love Kool-Aid McKinstry. I had just never thought that the Lions were going to have a shot at Terrion Arnold. And the Lions brought in Terrion Arnold at the very end of, what was 30, top 30 visits. So they must have caught wind of something, because they brought him in, towards the very end, of leading up to the draft. And what do you know? It ends up falling into our lap that the Lions end up with Terrion Arnold in what was a very weird draft with 13 or 14 of the first picks being on the offensive side of the ball. So
13.
You end up with Terrion Arnold at 24. They back it up, double down on a position of need by taking Ennis Rakestraw at 61 in round 2. And then, of course, with Giovanni Manu, Sion Vaki, Christian Mahogany, and others. I mean, Mekhi Wingo. The Lions really did an excellent job at making this draft work for them. We kind of had some limited picks this year in the trades that Brad Holmes made. I think that he did an excellent job at doing everything possible to make sure that we got the best player possible that also fit the team's needs. So the draft obviously hit it out the park. I think we've got great depth. And then the extensions. The Lions locked up Jared Goff for the next, 5 seasons. And then they locked up Penei Sewell, clearly the number 1 right tackle, potentially the number 1 left tackle in the league. And when he gets a shot, I think he is going to move to left tackle at some point. They still haven't, re-signed Ali McNeil, but then Amon-Ra St. Brown, top 5 wide receiver in the league since 2022. Man, when you watch his film, there's just nobody like him right now in the NFL that does what he does at the high level that he does it. And super excited to see now 3 staples on this team locked down for the future. So that's why I have the Lions at the number 3 spot, 3rd best overall chances and team right now in June, before training camp or before the season kicks off, to win the Super Bowl. Overall outlook, look, with the strategic moves that the Lions made, coaching staff is the same, right? No let off in coaching staff. We got better on the defensive line with Terrell Williams. They made some moves. They got rid of Dre Bly and forgive me, I forget, who did we bring in? Cornerback.
Deshae Thompson.
Deshae Townsend, that's right. So the Lions are well positioned to build off the success they had in 2023 and prove to everybody in 2024 it was not a fluke. Where they finished at 12-5, the best record the Lions have had, and make it all the way to the NFC Championship game where they clearly had the game won. They just had to shut the door and they let it open just a little too long. But they addressed key needs through both free agency and the draft. The Lions have fortified their roster for the future and have added some significant depth needed to make a Super Bowl run.